Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Jason Hack'em Sports Experience. I am joined by one of my longtime good old pals out there in the world of social media, a man that's let me grace his airwaves many a time, so I figure I return the favor from the Fight Game blog, the founder, Garrett Gonzalez. Garrett, thanks for coming on today.
Finally, I get to be on the experience. Glad to be on.
Well, hopefully it's better than most of those recap shows of the WWE experience, but this is this is definitely not going to be something like that. Of course, as I kind of just spilled the beans there, we will be talking WrestleMania, as the granddaddy of them all is this weekend, and it's really turned from just a big pay-per-view to a whole event and weekend. It's out in Santa Clara, California, and Double G will be attending, and Double G, how excited are you that you're going to be attending the 31st installment of WrestleMania?
Well, I've been live to WrestleMania 25 and 26, and those were awesome. You know, just the stadium and environment when it comes to WrestleMania is pretty insane. But this year, being that it's in my hometown, I get to do a lot of the other stuff because there's ROH, there's NXT, there's Evolve. There's Jim Ross's show, Wale Mania. So just tons. It's not even just WrestleMania weekend. It's like 5 days of stuff if you include Raw. So I'm just gonna soak it all in. It's kind of a once in a lifetime deal, and I'm just gonna enjoy myself. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun, and I think the intrigue for the weekend just got a little bit more exciting with the news that Brock Lesnar has decided to re-sign with the WWE and shut the door, to quote him, on his MMA career. Double G, I mean, this is just huge news for the company going forward, not just for WrestleMania, but it adds 10 times the intrigue for the main event.
The main event in of itself, you had to figure that if Lesnar didn't re-sign, that he was more than likely going to lose. WWE doesn't, they'd be too paranoid to keep the belt on him, knowing that there wasn't 100% shot that he'd still be with the company. So now that he has signed, I think there are like 3 different ways they can go here. You can go Lesnar retaining and whatever they want to do with that, whether it's as a heel or a babyface. If you want Reigns to win, I think the only likely way that Reigns now wins is if he turns heel, because if he keeps if he wins the belt as a babyface, he's going to get booed out of the stadium. Like, it's going to be the biggest boo. It's going to be like he's the biggest heel since Vicky Guerrero. And then, you also have the possibility of a Rollins cash-in. Now, that seems to be a little bit underplayed these days. They don't talk about it a lot, but I do feel like, it's a third possibility, maybe even a distant third, but you have to think that there's going to be something about that. And then, there's a lot of possibility as far as just what people are saying, that maybe even The Rock shows up and will be in attendance to try to promote something for next year. So yeah, lots of intrigue now. I'm so surprised that they actually got the deal done. I thought Brock was going to make him sweat and play UFC and WWE against each other, but hey, good for him. He got what he wanted. He's happy, and we can move forward.
Well, it's exciting in the sense of, I think for the wrestling fan and all of us, like, we're kind of really excited that he's back, because the money that was going to come, more so I think from UFC, since the start of the network, I guess paydays, we're not 100% sure how they're really working, but the network is the bread and butter of the WWE, and it's not the same revenue from pay-per-view, but you've got to figure that with the Reebok deal from UFC coming up, that's going to play a big factor into Brock, as Brock's got his own personal sponsorship deals. So it's really exciting to see him back, and now it adds all that intrigue, as you said, with Brock either winning or a heel turn from Roman Reigns, which I think would probably make the most sense, because I think Brock's just destined to be the biggest babyface in the company.
Yeah, and let's not forget, next week they're going to announce a deal with Tap Out, which is the former big MMA apparel company. And now that like you said, UFC's working with Reebok, so a lot of these smaller independent apparel companies, they're kind of left out. Tap Out went to WWE and said, hey, let's work together. WWE had, I think they maybe had done some stuff with Under Armour. They quietly released a John Cena kind of fitness apparel shirt that I never saw him wear and I never saw go anywhere. This was a couple months ago. But now, maybe Brock is going to be a focal point of that fitness, of the Tap Out brand now. WWE and Tap Out seem to be about 50-50 involved. So, he could be involved in that. Along with, Reigns and Cena and whoever else that they put out there. But yeah, the one thing I saw today that was a little interesting, and I didn't really buy it at all, is AP ran a story that basically said that, I think they quoted Brock. I'm not 100% sure if it was his quote, but they quoted him as to saying that, the UFC offered 10 times more. What they didn't clarify was it 10 times more than the WWE contract he signed? Because if it was, then that would be really nuts and preposterous. Or was it 10 times his guaranteed UFC purse, which was about $500,000 per match without pay-per-view bonuses? I mean, I guess they could gimmick the math there, but he's probably good in the UFC for one specific buy rate against Frank Mir, and then if he wins that fight, he's guaranteed another big buy rate. But after that, he's going to slowly but surely lose his drawing power from that end. So in WWE, that he can work and draw and be a big name for them as long as they keep him hot. So I thought it was going to be the right decision. Then when he showed up at UFC, we were kind of wondering what that was about. But I think it's the right idea, the right direction for him, and I'm glad. I just love watching the guy wrestle. I love watching him fight too, but I was also getting a little worried those last couple fights where he was getting picked apart and beat up. So at least I don't have to watch him get beat up.
Well, I was happy that he came to the realizement that, you and I both did, that, we don't need to see him taking serious big blows from, 260, 300-pound guys in a cage, whereas his fighting skills has really, I guess, diminished, and the gruel and grind of a training camp, whereas now he's got this new deal. He really works just a couple months out of the year and can sit at home, be with family. I mean, who wouldn't take that job? And to quote him, he works part-time, gets paid full-time. So, I mean, he's living the dream.
And he says it's only for him. He's the only one who gets that deal.
Well, when you're a big giant like that, I can totally understand that. But like you said, though, when we started this conversation here, Double G, it's not just a big wrestling weekend. It's an event of 5 things. Tell us what you'll be attending, because, I mean, as you said, there's Wale Mania, Ring of Honor, the NXT show that the WWE just announced last week, as well as some other indies and, your WrestleCon Fest. So, I mean, and Hall of Fame, and then, of course, WrestleMania. So, it's just become, instead of just that, like I said, a big pay-per-view, to a whole weekend for cities. Like, as we know, they're bidding for this event of WrestleMania like the Olympics.
Yeah, my starting Thursday actually is when things get started for me. I was actually going to go to the Evolve show Thursday night with Alan Farrell, who also writes for us at Fight Game Blog and is on Wrestling Observer. He's got his own podcast over there. I was going to go that, but then Court Bauer was reaching out to a lot of the Observer subscribers to get there was a special deal for Observer folks for Wale Mania, which is a after party concert with Wale, but really the wrestling portion of it is meet and greet with Rey Mysterio, Conan, Court Bauer, and lots of other guys. They're going to do a live podcast. I think Dave Meltzer is going to be on the panel. So that's what I'm going to be doing Thursday night instead. I was kind of the liaison between Court and the Observer subscribers to get them on board and in sort of the VIP area with the general admission ticket. So I'm going to be helping out there. It's going to be a blast. It's just basically a party to hang out with wrestling fans, amongst a bunch of wrestlers. And then Friday is like the busiest day. I think Evolve starts at something like 3 p.m. Pacific time. And then ROH starts later in the evening, like 7:30 or 8. And that's, Samoa Joe's first match. So that's going to be, or actually his first match. I think he had a match on TV, but it's going to be a title match for him against Briscoe. So that'll be a blast. Because I've always wanted to see Samoa Joe wrestle in person. I never had the opportunity. And then right after that, we're going to try to haul down the 101 freeway to get to NXT, and we'll probably miss about half the show because it's about a half an hour away. But yeah, so we got 3 wrestling shows Friday night, and then Saturday is Jim Ross's show, which is during the daytime, and then Hall of Fame, like you said, and then after Hall of Fame, there's actually a local show called the King of Indies. King of Indies, and if you remember, the original King of Indies is kind of like where like Bryan Danielson got discovered. I think Brian Alvarez even wrestled on that event. So they're bringing back the brand of King of Indies, though it's mostly a NorCal, Northern California, Bay Area show for as far as the workers are involved. But there's guys there who I enjoy, specifically a guy named Jeff Cobb, who was an Olympic wrestler for Guam, I believe. So that's going to be out on Saturday night. And then Sunday, obviously, WrestleMania, Monday, Raw. So just a bunch of stuff. I will miss all the WrestleCon stuff. There's actually more WWN live shows that are happening as well. There's a Shimmer show. And I think there's a Kaiju Big Battle show, though I don't even know what the heck the Kaiju Big Battle is.
Kaiju Big Battle is something I'm really sad you're not going to see. It's basically like Japanese anime mixed with wrestling. It's really great. A couple years ago when it was in New York, I watched the iPay-per-view of it, and it's just, I mean, you don't really need to follow anything. It's just a spectacle to see. They even had a feature one time on E60 on ESPN, so, I mean, they've got some recognition out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. And, you know, a lot of the stuff that it's just because they cross over from a time frame. Like, so, you know, like I said, I wanted to go to Evolve on Thursday night, but then it's WrestleMania. I wanted to go see Mick Foley, even though I've seen him in person before. He's awesome live, but then it's the same time as the ROH show. So a lot of stuff that they're actually booking against each other because there's just not a lot of time. And, you know, it's kind of funny because WWE tried to book out a lot of places in advance so these groups wouldn't be able to run their shows, but they found a way. It's a packed weekend.
Never underestimate the people of the indies, because underground workers and independent workers will find a way, and this is the type of a weekend where you wish you could pull some twin magic and be at all the events. Totally.
I mean, I would love to do that. Like, there's so much other things that I would love to do, but you know, you kind of had to pick and choose and set it up, and then for the people who are coming out of town, like transportation is a big deal. So that, you know, they're going to be Ubering it, or, you know, I know Ed in San Antonio has a bus that's going to help a lot with transportation. But thankfully, I'll have my car, and you know, I'll be dragging people around and running around, and we're going to have a blast. That's going to be great.
Well, it seems fun. I think to me the biggest event that is wrestling related, as you mentioned, but it's no real actual wrestling, is the WrestleMania. Double D, tell us what you really did to help set that up. You kind of went into it, but I mean, you've been kind of a big deal helping with the Observer subscribers, and this just seems like a really, really fun event.
Yeah, Ed in San Antonio, he usually is the liaison for that kind of stuff, but you know, he's also doing a lot of other stuff there's an Observer dinner that he set up, and then he set up a lot of the transportation, like I said. So he was getting a little bit overwhelmed and needed some help. So I helped out with the WrestleMania and with the JR's Ringside with Jim Ross show on Saturday, because both of those shows have a deal with Observer subscribers where, you know, you can essentially just get in with the general admission and then get like the full on, you know, the higher ticket price service. So I just helped, you know, I didn't really do much promoting, though. I'd tweet some stuff, and I'd basically, you know, Court Bauer, who I've been working with directly, you know, he'll tell me some information, and I'd go post it out. And, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, I don't know if you listen to MLW radio with Conan and Court and MSL, but you know, I'm a pretty big fan of those guys. Court has been on Brian Alvarez's podcast a lot, and you know, Court had a lot of nice things to say about Dave Meltzer too. And you know, I'm friends with Dave, so you know, it's just kind of like a cool little fraternity in a sense that you know, that I'm trying to help out with. So you know, they are good friends themselves, so working together, trying to make sure that, you know, the Observer subscribers, you know, get to try and get the VIP service for being a subscriber and only paying GA. So it's just planning, it's just organizing, it's just making sure that everyone is aware of what's going on. So nothing too hard, but I wanted to take something off of Ed's plate. He works pretty hard, and this was fairly easy. And it's been fun just going back and forth with Court, because sometimes we'll talk a little bit about wrestling and such. But yeah, I mean that was mostly it.
Well, also anything to do to help with Court, I think right now is he's got a lot on his plate as well. So anything to help with Court Bauer right there is, really nice of you to do. Like, you didn't have to do that. But to me, the one thing with this event now is, I think for the guys like Rey Mysterio and Conan, I think this would be a nice weekend and calming, and hopefully something that get them settled back to normality after the tragedy that happened last weekend in Mexico.
Yeah, that's tough. Like I heard that, because Conan, he was there ringside, and
I guess before we let you explain, we should explain the tragic passing of Paraguay, who passed away in the ring, for those who may not know.
Yeah. I mean that was just a crazy news that I'd read, the morning that had happened. So, those guys, it's been rough. Like Ray, people have been running with this AP story, which is not written very well, and it's a little irresponsible, really. When it comes to journalism, Ray was in the ring, and he didn't really do anything. It was a freak accident, and I think a lot of the media, who doesn't really know what's going on, they're kind of running with this story that, this former WWE wrestler who just became a free agent, had something to do with this wrestler's death in Mexico. Like, it was absolutely not that. And it was a freak accident, and it's so unfortunate, not only for, Pero and his family, but, like Ray, getting blamed by some people, and Conan being right there, and then Conan had to go out to Lucha Underground tapings, like, very soon thereafter, and just, those guys are going through a lot with this, and that was their compadre, that was their friend. So dealing with that, and then going through the kind of the mudslinging that happened, it's just not only did they have to deal with a friend passing, but then the mudslinging and the untruths that were stated about them, and all that stuff. And I think you're right. I think this is going to be maybe a little bit of a breath of fresh air for them. Hopefully it is, because if it's not, then it's unfortunate, because this was supposed to be like just a fun time. I don't think you can ever get over something like that. So I'm not saying that that they're going to be able to mend because of Wale Mania, but I think it's going to be a nice little just a nice little night away from everything, and hopefully they'll be able to kind of take a bit of a breath and relax and have a good time. And I just hope that everyone supports them, and they know what happened, and we know what happened, and hopefully we can give them a little bit of a reprieve from all the stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, I think this is, like we said, it's something that they really need, because I can't imagine what both of them are going through, and especially Ray. I mean, a guy that he broke into the business with in Paraguay, and being there to see his final moments, and all the negative stuff and negative articles that have been coming at him, and even death threats that are coming at him. So hopefully everyone can go show Rey Mysterio the support and love that he really needs right now, because I think it's been a rough couple of years for him personally, in terms of career-wise, and now personally his career is mixing with his personal life. So it's a real unfortunate situation, but hopefully that event is what it is being really hyped up to be, one of the funnest events of the year.
And I'm a huge Rey Mysterio fan. He's probably one of my 5 favorite in-ring workers of all time. So I'm just going to be excited just to kind of, maybe I'll throw a couple questions at him. But that'll be really, really awesome for me. And I know for other people who are just huge Mysterio fans, and just, you just get to kind of hang out and hopefully get a chance to shoot the stuff with some wrestlers. I know Carlito's going to be there. Chris Masters, MVP is supposed to be there. Even JR, if his flight gets in on time, he's going to try to come by. So, I mean, it just seems like such a cool, chill place. And then you get the Wale concert after. And, I think Wale is, he's a very entertaining rapper, and he loves wrestling. So I think that sort of plays into this really well.
I think that's exactly it. I think it's going to play very well. But now let's move forward to the main reason really everyone's coming this weekend. It's WrestleMania. I thought the Go Home Raw was maybe not like the most selling point of a WrestleMania you've ever seen, but I thought there was some positive stuff on there. Thought the Rusev Cena angle was done almost to perfection. I like the opening segment with Sting and Steph and Triple H. All in all, for a WrestleMania where there hasn't been that electric feel, there were some moments on Raw that really got me excited. I don't know, how did you feel about the Raw selling you on WrestleMania? I mean, even if you weren't going, would that intrigue you more into getting the show on the network or maybe getting a ticket last minute?
You know, I think it was the best job that they've done since really since the Raw after the Royal Rumble. Like, I think that's still the best show that they've done to actually promote the main event for WrestleMania. They still haven't been able to recapture that. And the only, I agree with you pretty much. I thought everything was solid. The one thing that they just missed out on, though, was, I think because we all remember that Royal Rumble, the day after Royal Rumble, where Brock and Roman were kind of, right next to each other, looking each other in the eyes and talking about the match. I think we kind of hoped that there was going to be a little bit more aggression, maybe a pull apart. Maybe Roman tries to set up for a Superman punch. Maybe Brock tries to suplex him. Something to get people into anticipating what's actually going to happen when they have their match. And they did the tug of war over the belt, which was a little silly. I kind of wonder if the way that it was written is because they weren't 100% sure yet about Brock. I don't know the exact timing of when he would have signed his contract, but I thought that was a little weird. But they finally let Sting talk for whatever reason. That this was the only time he got to talk. He has a great presence about him still, and I thought that was a cool moment. Just him being in the ring, that was pretty fun to see. Kind of surreal in a sense, even though we've seen him in the ring, a couple of different times before. It just finally hit me like, wow, Sting's actually going to be at WrestleMania. Something we thought maybe would happen, but we weren't 100% sure. I also think they missed the boat a little bit. And I would actually love to hear what you think about this. The Undertaker. I understand why they just maybe may want people to wait to see him at WrestleMania, but I always thought one of the great segments on Raw going into WrestleMania, the road to WrestleMania, was always when the Undertaker would do that slow walk. He and whoever he was going to face, they'd kind of look at each other, they'd point to the WrestleMania sign, and it basically essentially would mean it's like, it's on now. And we didn't really get that. Like, maybe the Bray character, they feel that, his character's a little different. Whatever the reason, I think there was a missing opportunity there, because I think this match, which should be like really anticipated, like we get to see the Undertaker again. Who knew, if he was going to wrestle? It's still, it's like, oh, the Undertaker's on this card. Like, I didn't see him on TV. Like, are we sure? Like, are they going to trick us like they did, at the Fastlane pay-per-view? Like, there was a missed opportunity to get people even more excited for this show, I think.
I totally think that's why they didn't have Undertaker on the show, or even in the build of this program at all, other than that voiceover promo he did about 2 weeks ago, which I'm fine with. This program as a whole, I just think, I don't know how much intrigue people really have. I think people are more excited to see Undertaker back more so than him actually in a match. I think people like the aura of the Undertaker and being around, but I mean, seeing those pictures online of him, like, and now he just turned 50 years old, like, I don't really need to see a 50-year-old Undertaker in the ring anymore. I mean, he's crushing the squats, but is he going to be crushed in the ring in terms of slow mobility? I mean, it's been a while since he's been in the ring. And as well, I think Bray's cut tremendous promos going into this feud, but ever since he lost to Cena, it just seems like the company's lost a lot of direction of what they really want to do. He's been all over the place. Was in that Dean Ambrose feud. That was supposed to elevate both guys, and it just never clicked for whatever reason it was. It just never clicked. You know, so there was a lot of silly booking in the feud when it came to the in-ring stuff, but it's just with a guy that I don't think a lot of people really care about. I mean, if it was Sting and Undertaker and both guys were doing those promos with video packages, I think the intrigue would be 10 times that, but it's just Bray Wyatt and the guy that, you know, loses to, you know, Cena and anyone else he's really been feuding with.
Like, the problem that I have with Bray Wyatt is that I think his promos, there's no, it doesn't, there's nothing that he says that makes me go, oh, I want to see him get beat up. Like, he's like, he has these promos that are, they're a little bit cerebral. Like, he talks over people's heads. You're not really sure exactly what he's talking about. But at the end of the day, I don't go, wow, I really want to see him in a match and I really want to see him get beat up. The way I feel after watching his promos is, oh, like, he just doesn't have a lot of story to go with, so he's just kind of repeating himself. And I feel like his promos since the beginning, once the Wyatt family separated, like, he's kind of been a one-trick pony to me. And the entrance is cool. I'm sure it'll be awesome at WrestleMania when they dim the lights and everyone turns on their cell phones and everything. I think that'll be cool. But at the end of the day, is the thrill or the actual purpose of this match because we want to see him get beat up? Or is it like you said earlier, which is we just kind of want to see The Undertaker and then he's just sort of the guy across the ring? Like, I wish he would do that one heel promo where I go, okay, this is a dastardly heel and I just want to see him get killed. I haven't really heard that from him since the Wyatt family broke up.
Well, I think it's also how they handled the Wyatt family breakup. It was kind of like 1 week on TV. Well, they're not a family anymore, and now they're just solo. So everyone really involved in there, other than, I guess, Harper, kind of been lost in the shuffle. No real idea what they want to do. But moving to this card here, Double G, I think a lot of people have complained in the build. I have as well, even on this show. But I think when it comes to the stuff in-ring, I think it's going to be a pretty solid show. Starting with the tag title Fatal 4-Way with Kid and Cesaro versus Los Matadors, The New Day, and the Usos. I think this match being on the pre-show is a strong thing because they'll get probably way more time. If you remember the tag match from last year that was on the network in the pre-show, it was actually a really great match. Just no one really saw it because it was a pre-show situation. But they got the time. They were able to tell more of a story than they would in an 8-minute match instead of now it's a 20-minute match. So I think that'll be a real strong kickoff. So hopefully people can make their way into to Levi's Stadium and catch it on the network because I think this will be a really strong way to start the show.
I think the doors open for Levi's Stadium like 2 hours or maybe even 2.5 hours before the show actually starts. So they're trying to get people in early. And I think this match has it's going to be one of the 3 or 4 best in-ring matches of the night. Like, it's not going to have the spectacle of a Sting and a Triple H, obviously. Like, that's just a different level of spectacle, but this will be fun. Like, you got, the Usos are a really good tag team. Kid and Cesaro will get their shine. Hopefully we get to see him toss the bull. The Matadors are only there because the bull's really there, but I do think it's going to be fun. I'm still not sure exactly what the New Day is, but maybe we'll get to see some fun stuff with Kofi, like, Kofi and Tyson or Kofi and Cesaro. Yeah, like, I'm really interested in watching this match because I think they're going to be of the mentality like, okay, we're going to have some time here. We're going to put on something really cool. And, like I said, I think everyone's anticipating that the bull is going to get spun around and get dizzy.
And with this match, I see no title changing hands. I think it makes so much sense with Kid and Cesaro because they've got a lot more TV time. There's always the intrigue with Natalya, so I think they have something there. They need to keep working with it.
Agree, completely agree.
Moving on, there is another tag match on this show that is, I think actually going to turn out better than what a lot of people are. It's AJ Lee and Paige versus the Bella Twins. On Raw, I thought the best thing to me on the show was, one of the best things was the Divas match between Paige and Nikki Bella. Probably the strongest Divas match I've seen in forever, excluding the NXT stuff, obviously. But I felt that added a new element to this match, because you know that these girls have a physicality now in the ring. The story elements there more so with AJ and Paige having some sort of trust issue, and if the Bellas are going to really play that against each other. I mean, they try to really capitalize that in all the weeks of the build, but this was the home run for me on that. And I think it's going to actually be a solid match, depending on the time they give it.
Now, this is really going to be the true test of whether or not Vince and Stephanie, listen to the fans when it comes to social media with
Hashtag give Divas a chance.
Exactly, because the last 2 weeks they've gotten time, right? Like, they've actually got the time to actually put on a decent wrestling match. And, like, you have to believe that the women are probably pretty jealous of what the NXT women get to do. They probably believe that, if given the same time and pushed the same way, they could probably do just as well. But they don't really get the time, and they're kind of an afterthought on the show. So I think this is going to be the true test of whether Vince and Stephanie, are true to their word about the give Divas a chance stuff. Because if they get time, I think they could do some fun stuff. The Bellas, to me, are still fairly clunky in the ring. AJ and Paige are rock solid. I guess my fear is that they're going to do something based on the way Raw ended. It's for them, or at least for that segment. It seems like there's going to be some possible breakup or fight or something, and that the Bellas are going to be the ones with their hands raised, which is fine, because let's not forget that Total Divas is still a pretty nice vehicle for them, and they are the stars of that show. So there's no real reason that they need to necessarily lose this match, because they are the face of that show. But I just hope that they get the time, like Vince and Stephanie said, because we've seen Divas matches get completely cut from WrestleManias in the past. I think if this thing gets short shrifted, or if it possibly gets cut because they're running long, I think that would be some bad publicity for them.
Well, it'd definitely be bad publicity, but I think they have a little bit more flexibility now with the network and stuff of that nature. I mean, I know it's still available on pay-per-view for some markets that don't have the network, but I think the flexibility of the network helps. I think it'll be a fine match. Nikki seems to be definitely really improved as an in-ring worker. I guess dating Cena doesn't hurt that in a sense. Definitely doesn't hurt the push. But I think this match will be fine. I do agree with you. I see the Bellas going over because it seems like it's time for another AJ Page feud, because it's the new year for the company after this show. The other match on this show that the only match on this show that I'm really kind of dreading is the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Last year was so excited. It was a brand new element to WrestleMania. I thought it went over really well. It looked like they were going to push Cesaro as this, new superstar. Was poised for a babyface run. Paired him up with Heyman. Cut the cord of that one pretty quickly. And now it's just a bunch of dudes in a match that no one's going to care about, other than the fact that it looks like we're going to have probably Mizdow win and eliminate Miz, and finally his breakout moment for their feud.
Okay, so here's another way that they can do this. And I don't know what they're going to do. I think you're probably right in that Mizdow and Miz are going to be the two at the end. But let's say, because they're going to do this NXT thing on Thursday at the Fan Access, where they've announced 4 guys that are going to be in this sort of tournament, and the winner of this tournament is going to get the opportunity to be in the Battle Royal. Now, I always thought that this would be the perfect spot to showcase or introduce Finn Balor. His entrance is amazing, for one, and to see that entrance in front of 70,000 people or 65,000 people or whatever it's going to be, outdoors, at Levi's, I think it would be amazing. So if he were to win and be in the Battle Royal, I could actually see him, Miz, and Mizdow being the last 3 guys Miz and Mizdow are arguing over who's supposed to win this match. Miz wants Mizdow to step over the top rope. He's the personal assistant. You need to do what you're supposed to do, what I pay you to do. Mizdow says no, he's not going to do it. And then Finn Balor clotheslines them both over the top rope and wins the match. Now, I think he would be better utilized on the Raw after, because that crowd is a little bit more hardcore WWE crowd who understands who Finn Balor is, and there's going to be less people, and those are the hardcores. But it could be a nice thing for Balor to win that match as well. Either that or Mizdow, that whole thing. I think that's where you're going. I know some people think that maybe Ryback has an opportunity too. I mean, he could clearly win this match, but I think those are about the only four who could do it.
I like your Balor idea in a sense, but I think if he eliminates both Miz and Mizdow, I think the crowd would turn on him pretty quick. So it seems like they're ready for the Mizdow breakup happen. I think it's better off for those NXT guys that if they even are called up for a run on Raw, it's better for them on a Raw for them to have their chance to shine and what have you. I agree, Balor's ready, but I just don't think that's the moment you do it. Other than that angle, I think this will be the fastest battle royal you've ever seen in your life.
Wait, so what do you think they do with Mizdow after the breakup?
That's the question here I have, because I'm not sure what they do, because this seems more so like this angle and feud is great, but what happens once there's a conclusion? Like, who's he gonna feud with? Because the only reason this has really worked is because of the mimicking, and it's with Miz, who's been a really strong heel, but I don't know who else you can put him with. I think once this program is done, that's what the real test is, to see where Mizdow can be as a face.
You know what I would do, and I don't think they'll do this, and I don't think Miz would really want to do this, but I would actually have Miz become his manager and actually give him a decent push, because I think we sort of understand who Miz is and what he is. He's gonna be a mid-card guy. He's got a great look, but I think there's a ceiling for him. And people have been talking about, for the longest time now, that he would be a great manager. Why not try it? You get to keep the Mizdow character. He doesn't have to change his name back to Sandow. And I think people will like the pairing of the two to still, I think they like them both together, no matter if they're feuding or if they're on the same team. But, I would utilize Miz as the mouthpiece and kind of, whether it's a heel or a babyface, hopefully, there would be at least a babyface for a little bit. But I think they could do something where the both of them stay together rather than breaking them up. Because the second they break up, then WWE writers have to figure out, okay, does he go back to Damian Sandow? What do we do with his name? How do we do this? And I think they're just going to royally screw it up. So I'd like to see them both still together, at least as a team, or once the feud ends, for a long while after. I think they're a really good act.
I agree they're a good act, but we'll see what happens, because I think it's destined for them time to feud. The next match I guess we can take a look at here is the Intercontinental title ladder match. Barrett versus Truth versus Ambrose versus Harper versus Ziggler versus Stardust and versus Daniel Bryan. First of all, I think the storyline for this feud has been absolutely ridiculous, of people stealing a title that hasn't meant anything in maybe 10 years. I don't understand why, Bryan's in this match. There's been no real reason why, other than really Ambrose and Barrett that are feuding over the title at the previous show, why these other guys are really caring. It's just time to throw these guys in for a big match. That's really all it is. I think the match will be fine. I think we'll see some spectacular stuff, but if the company thinks that this is going to create major interest in the Intercontinental title, well, they don't understand how to make titles mean anything.
Well, I mean, it will if Daniel Bryan wins and he becomes like the fighting champion, the fighting babyface champion. Now, we've been saying this for the last 5 years about this belt, like, the way to get it over is to have the champion win matches, but they don't do it that way. Maybe they change with him because it's Bryan. They don't want him in the top feuds, but maybe he becomes the fighting champion, and he's that guy for them. But I think they looked at this card and they were like, well, we have two big, we have the special attractions with Sting and Triple H and Undertaker and Bray. Whether those are going to be good wrestling matches or not, they'll probably be at least okay. We have Rusev and John Cena, which is going to be more of like a brawl type of match, but it's not going to be your 4.5, 5-star classic. And they said, well, we need something that's going to, get these people going. And I think that's what this match is going to be. There'll be all the stunts, and ladder matches have been done to death over the years. There's a whole pay-per-view around. There's 2 pay-per-views actually around ladder matches now. But I think, they look at this and said, we really need that one that's going to pop these guys. And that's why I also think Daniel Bryan is going to win, because if Bad News Barrett was to keep this belt, well, I think a lot of people like him. I think it'll be more, again, the disappointment of Bryan not winning that would actually steer the crowd into a bad direction. I guess you could do something with Dolph Ziggler. That would be okay. And Dean Ambrose, I guess, would be okay as well. If one of those 3 guys don't win, I think the anti or the pro Daniel Bryan crowd will be upset. My hope is that R-Truth actually wins the belt and starts calling it Little Jimmy.
I hope not. I hope that does not happen, actually. That was good stuff for him, but I think he needs something new. It's really, to me, between Ziggler and Bryan to win this match. I mean, for Bryan, though, talk about such a disappointment from last year, winning the title and being WrestleMania being built all around you to a guy in a ladder match right now. Really sad, and the unfortunate situation how things had. Really, they should have brought him back after WrestleMania, so the Raw after WrestleMania, I think would have created more intrigue. Roman Reigns, if staying babyface, has a true opponent that he can have in a sense of a 2 babyface guys battling for a title in a competitive style aspect. So I agree with you. It's really Bryan. Ziggler maybe has like a 10% chance of winning, but it seems like this is destined for Bryan Danielson to become the Intercontinental Champion.
I had this conversation with there was a bunch of us, but Dave Meltzer made this comment. He said, come WrestleMania, and this was probably, I want to say it was like last fall. He said, come WrestleMania, the WWE will not understand that Dean Ambrose is actually the Shield member who will be more over and probably better suited for the world title. Now, that didn't really happen, and I don't know exactly why, because it's not like they didn't push Ambrose's character that hard, though they did have him lose most of the big matches. Do you feel like Ambrose, I just feel like last summer his character was so hot, and now it's just kind of like lukewarm.
Well, I went to a house show back at the end of February in Toronto, and when Ambrose music hit, top 3 pop of the show behind Bryan and Chris Jericho, I would say I agree. That is why I think a lot of people may have that same opinion. He was in the Rollins feud and then the Bray Wyatt feud, and the Bray Wyatt feud killed it to me in the sense of, like, he was in matches with, and no one cared about them, but how he lost was just absolutely goofy and ridiculous, like getting electrocuted or what have you, silly stuff. I agree with what Dave is saying. I think he's got the potential. He's kind of got a Terry Funk mentality, charisma, personality, obviously can get it done when it comes to in-ring action. It's just the company has put him in wacky situations other than the Rollins feud, because that was like the hottest thing for a long period of time last year for WWE.
Yeah, I went to a house show as well, and he and Seth Rollins had a fun match, but I don't know. I think his character is a little stunted, maybe a little bit by the look, but it's almost like they have this. They're not going 100% with him, like, because he's kind of like this wild and crazy guy, and like, he's off the hook and he's unfiltered and he's unleashed, but then they don't let him go all the way with it. Now, and I feel like he's not allowed, a lot of these wrestlers, like, Steve Austin today will say, the Steve Austin character is just me dialed all the way up. I feel like they don't allow him to be himself dialed all the way up. Like, he's kind of he's maybe at like an 8.5 rather than at a 10.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that, but I think it's put him in another good situation to let him breathe, and I think he'll still sell tickets and create interest with the fans. Now, you made mention of one of the opponents that's now in this match that Ambrose had big feuds with, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton. One of the other feuds I think that I just wasn't the biggest fan of how it went, because I thought Orton came back at, what was it, Fastlane, and it was like, oh, this is going to be the beginning of a good situation. But then they put him back into I was going to say the Alliance, but the big power faction there with the company, or the Authority, and it just was wacky. Well, we know it's not Evolution, de-evolution if anything, but that just to me killed it. Just have, Orton try to get revenge on the guy that nearly ended his career, but now we're finally there. I think this will probably be the show stealer match up against the ladder match. I think this will actually steal the show. Rollins is looking to have a big breakout match, and he's in there with a perfect guy to have a good match with. I think it'll be similar to this type match that Orton had with Punk at WrestleMania 27. So I think this will be a very appealing match to watch, and I think Rollins goes over.
I think he should. I think he should do it in a very dastardly way. Though, I think one thing is interesting is if they plan on Rollins doing something at the end, I wonder if having Orton lay him out will kind of get people to forget, so that could be sort of a surprise at the end. Orton lays out Rollins, and they got to take him back or whatever, and he's not doing well, and then he comes out at the end. I think that could be a nice surprise if he's going to be involved in the finish at all. But I do think he needs to win. I think they missed the boat on this, like you said, though, because if you remember when Orton left, like, he was pretty hot. Like, he had gotten pretty hot. Like, we were sort of anticipating the turn. And when they brought him back, maybe they brought him back a little too early. Like, maybe they should have waited, because they really couldn't help themselves, and they had to create a story, and they had to try and be creative, and they had to show their worth, because they're just wrestling writers, and that's what wrestling writers do. But there could have been a lot more done. I feel like this match is also kind of forgotten. Like, right? We should be anticipating this and been like, oh man, I can't wait for Randy to get his hands on Seth. But then they're like in the ring like every other show, whether or not they fight. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, there should have been a blood feud element to this based on how Orton was removed from the Authority. And the way that it came back, it just made it feel like he doesn't really care that much. He'd rather trick them than beat them up. And so it kind of came across a little fake and a little unrealistic. But I still think they'll have a good match. Randy Orton's probably the most, I would say he's the most underrated performer in the entire company when it comes to actually having wrestling matches. I'm just... I'm not amazed, but I think his style and the sort of the pace, and you could tell he's the son of a former great worker because of the way that he goes about his matches, and I enjoy all of them. And to have him with an athletic maniac like Seth, I think it'll be really good.
It should be me, like I said, be the show stealer of it, and I think it could be like a Shawn Michaels type moment for Rollins. We already did kind of talk about Wyatt and The Undertaker. We'll move on here to me, I think what's been the best match that they've built up in Rusev versus Cena. I mean, Rusev has been built up like something that we used to see all the time, but now it means so much more in terms of the monster cuts through everyone. No one's really had him beat. I mean, Cena almost has him beat, but then he has help from Lana. Old 80s style booking, which still works today in that sense. I think this has been maybe the most important match for Cena since those Rock feuds. Last year with Bray was interesting, but I think it lost a little bit of luster. This just feels important. The crowd was into the big angle that they did on Raw. I'm really excited for this. It's really interesting to see what happens here. I'm leaning Cena, but I really hope Rusev wins, because I think if you keep Reigns as the face, that Rusev is going to have to be that next guy to go after the title.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's been the best feud that they've had come WrestleMania in the build, and it's because it's exactly sort of what we said was lacking in the Orton and Seth feud, which is there is believability in the dislike that John Cena has for Rusev. There is also believability in the dislike that Rusev has for John Cena. Now, I think a lot of the pro USA stuff that Cena's trying to do comes across very cartoonish and it's very see through. But if I look past that stuff, the physicality that they've done, the match that they had at Fastlane, the idea behind, how is he going to get this match again? I think it's been well done. Maybe he abused Rusev a little bit too much, but you knew that he had to do something to get this match that he so desperately wants. The only thing I think I wish that they would have done a little bit better is I wish that they would have made the belt a slightly bigger priority, because then there's an extra element to add to the realism of this match. But they haven't really done that, and I think Cena's just his overall celebrity, probably dwarfs the belt a little bit too. So that's probably why they didn't do it. But otherwise, this has just been really good stuff. Cena is, he's just great. He does what he does, and I know a lot of people, dislike him, but you don't hear that as much as we did, 5 years ago, where everyone was like, Cena sucks, and his 5 moves of doom. I think people are those naysayers are starting to respect him for what he is, which is, the biggest star in the company and the one who understands more than anybody else on that roster, save Brock Lesnar maybe, how to get over, how to continually, how to just continue to reach the fans in a way that, almost nobody else does.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is Cena has the ability to make everyone seem bigger than what they are, and I think that's been key for this match, and his ability to sell has been fantastic, and to tell a story is a thing John Cena does beyond belief, which leads me to my next match, where I think, while it may lack in ability, the storytelling I think is going to be amazing, and that's Sting versus Triple H. Should have some of the coolest entrances, first of all, with Triple H doing a Terminator entrance, and we all know Sting can have a cool entrance. I think we're all curious to see what Sting can do in a ring. It's been a while since we've seen him actually wrestle. We know Trips always brings it at a WrestleMania. The story's going to be real interesting here. The Bat and the Sledgehammer are going to find their way into this match somehow. It's been a focal point of the feud. Sting has to go over in this match. I think it'll almost have maybe that. It has kind of that. I think it'll have that Rock Hogan-esque feel to it.
That's an interesting comparison. Now, will they have a better ownership of that crowd, or as good of an ownership of that crowd as those guys did? Probably not, but I think they could still do some of the same things. What's going to intrigue me the most is, Triple H is going to induct Arnold Schwarzenegger into the WWE Hall of Fame. He's also going to do an entrance which is going to be Terminator based. I think the guy's going to be jacked out of his mind to make this thing look fantastic. I assume he's going to be in great shape. I think to him, just being able to do these big matches and, being in front of Arnold, who's kind of a hero to him, and showing these guys how you really do it, and being with Sting, who he probably feels that he's going to need to carry, though I hope we don't see 10 belly to bellies like from the Big Papa Pump and Triple H match from back in the day. But I think he's out there. He's going to prove to these fans, he's not going to let us down. He's going to make sure that this match is good. Now, how good is it going to be? Is it going to be 4.5 stars? Probably not. But I think this match is slight. I think people don't really think this is going to be that good. They think it's going to be more spectacle. And really, Sting doesn't need to be out there for 25 minutes, so I hope that's not what Triple H has planned. But for a good 15-minute match, I think Triple H is going to put on a masterclass in storytelling. Big D and Doohan and Allen and I, and you were even a part of this a few years ago, where we ranked the top matches at WrestleMania. And so I was kind of going back and watching the Triple H and Undertaker matches from 27 and 28. And when you look back at those matches, like those guys weren't doing tons of spots. They were working really slowly, telling a story. It was really like a master class in storytelling. And I think that's what we're going to see here. You know, Triple H and Sting, they're going to tell a story. It's going to be a really strong story. There's not going to be any holes in it. And I think, like you, when it comes down to it, Triple H is going to be tapping in the middle of the ring to the Scorpion Deathlock. And I think that's the perfect finish to this match.
WCW finally gets that win. But then moving over to the main event, Brock versus Reigns. We've kind of talked about it here. I'm expecting this to be the most physical match on the show, knowing Brock's style. And Reigns' style a little bit is physical, maybe a little bit more choreographed violence, whereas Brock is choreographed but makes it look absolutely devastating. I think the crowd will be into it, maybe not the way the company hopes they're into it against Reigns, but there's still those elements that we talked about. I see Brock going over. I've heard a lot of people make a point of, if Brock wins, don't have him on TV for like maybe 1 or 2 more times this year to help build the undercard and the foundation of the company, because Reigns is definitely not ready. The only guy that was belonging in the spot was Bryan, but the company didn't put the faith in him. So I think now if Brock wins and you don't have him on TV, you've got a whole bunch of guys coming for that title, and it makes the company seem a little bit more interesting with building contenders.
You know, I agree with you, but I feel like they tried to do that last year and they dropped the ball in doing it. You know, we got the Undertaker, the victory over the Undertaker, which should have been like the launching pad to getting, you know, Reigns beating the guy who beat the guy who was undefeated, and they just didn't do a good job. So I don't trust that they'll be able to do a good job again. Now, should Brock Lesnar win? I think it's now in play when maybe it wasn't in play before. I think that as a babyface, he could be awesome, but maybe if he turns babyface, it'll be better for him to chase for a little while. Like, who knows? I don't know. I don't know what you think about that, but you know, I do think that this is going to be super physical, like you said. Roman and Brock may be the 2 best athletes in the company. You know, when you think about it, just from a physicality standpoint, you know, Cesaro's, you know, and Cena are just amazingly strong. But maybe, you know, if you're talking about real athletes, you know, Reigns and Lesnar might be your 2 best guys. I think what I love most about this match is I don't know what the hell is going to happen. Like, that's kind of fun, right? Like, you go into this match and you're going, you know, and I said it at the top, you know, maybe there's 3 things that can happen. You know, we could see Seth Rollins as the champion by the end of this night. Who knows? But the intrigue is there. Now that Brock is signed, you know, we know that he's not gonna, you know, we don't have to hear stupid sellout chants at WrestleMania and stuff. So that's great. I'm just excited to see what happens, and I think that's kind of the joy of wrestling is, like, you know, not knowing what's going to happen and just wanting to see how the story unfolds.
And when wrestling's always a surprise, as you said, it's the best, and that's when wrestling is the best thing on earth, better than movies, you know, anything that you can be entertained by, comic books, dramas, anything. That's when wrestling is at its best. So there you have it. We've previewed the whole card for an event that always excites me. I'm still like 8 years old inside when I get to see this show. Double G will be there, and before I let him go, let him plug, you know, the websites and his Twitter and anywhere you want to get Double G's coverage of the event at.
Okay, before I get to the plugs, when are we going to get you out to one of the events? We haven't.
I know.
We need to get you out, whether it's to a UFC show or a WrestleMania or something. Like, we need to get you out. So hopefully you're saving a little bit of cash here and there so you can come out to one of these shows, because it would be you know, that much more fun if we had Mr. Hagholm and the experience.
Well, I would definitely love to find my way out to a show. I keep telling myself every year, well, next year, but maybe next year is the year, because it is in Dallas, and more so than the event, that stadium is worth going to alone.
Yeah, and I'm planning on going too, so maybe it is next year. I know Big D's gonna go as well, so we'll get some of the crew together. Fightgameblog.com is the website. We are ranking the top 30 WrestleMania matches of all time on the website right now. We are down to the top 15, so we have a few more of these lists to go before Friday. And, I'm going to be going to all these shows, like I said, Evolve, ROH, NXT, and I have my phone, and I have an extra battery, and I have the WordPress app. So I'm going to be doing my best to actually cover these shows as they happen. And so I'll tweet out links, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at FightGameBlog. Our Facebook page, facebook.com/FightGameBlog. Like, all of that stuff is going to be there and on the website. So I'm not just going to be enjoying myself, but I'm going to be in constant motion and working. There's going to be a couple of podcasts that we're going to do, kind of going over the whole few days. My buddy John LaRocca, who runs the independent company out here in the Bay Area. He's going to be on it. He's got a very good take on wrestling, and one of his guys, one of the best Northern California indie guys who just recently retired, Dave Dutra. We're going to try to get him on. So we'll probably do at least 2 shows going over the events on Friday and Saturday and stuff. So that should be fun. But yeah, that's it. This is going to be a really fun 5 days. I can't wait, and I'll be letting everybody know through the word of the podcasts and also in our write-ups. So follow along.
Well, for Double G, that's it. Peace out, and have a good weekend, everyone.